Celebrating 5 years on YouTube as your live and interactive Sharks postgame, this is Teal Town After Dark. Good evening, everyone. It is March 11th, 2020. The San Jose Sharks lose for the first time this season to the Chicago Blackhawks 6-2. Welcome to Teal Town After Dark. This is your live and interactive Sharks postgame, and we will be taking all your comments and thoughts throughout this one. So if you want to be part of the show, by all means, here's how you do it, folks. Join us in the chat on the page or the app that you're seeing us on right now. You can follow us on the social, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud, and Reddit. And, of course, for more Sharks content, tealtownusa.com. We will get to all kinds of info on a very interesting night in the world of sports. I am joined by Reid.
Hello, everybody.
And, of course, we are joined by our special guest, Chelena Goldman. Chelena, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me back.
With a better connection. I like it already.
Yes.
So there's a lot to talk about. We'll go over this game really quick because there are some interesting points that came about on this night of professional men's ice hockey on a hump day. Sharks beginning a road trip that'll, 3 games in 4 nights. They first stop in Chicago, and I thought they came out really solid, Ian. I thought they were getting chances ablaze, and Chicago was letting them walk right in on some chances as well.
Yeah, I thought Chicago kind of got off to a slow start, but once they got their feet under them, the game shifted very, very quickly, very, very drastically the other way. No, I agree. I thought the Sharks did come out guns blazing in the first, at least in the first half of the game, first half of the first period at least. They had definitely had their opportunities. Chicago had theirs as well, but I think really once the second hit, Chicago really took over the game from there and didn't really let it go.
I thought that even though the Sharks came out much better in the first period, I thought they still looked a little loose, and I kind of wanted them to shut the door on Chicago a lot earlier. The Blackhawks were coming in after getting shut out by the Blues at home. They've also had kind of a wonky season, and when you have that early start where you're not seeing Jonathan Toews do much, you're not seeing Patrick Kane do much, that was really the time for the Sharks to really buckle down and do better defensively, and it really came undone in that second period. Even though they kind of got back to the basics in that third, it was almost too late at that point, and just about every facet of Chicago's game started to click at that point.
Yeah. Although it didn't start out too well, they would take 2 penalties within 15 seconds of each other. It led to Evander Kane getting his 26th of the season on the power play to make it 1-0. Chelena, what did you like from it? I thought I saw a little bit more cohesiveness from the man advantage unit tonight.
Yeah, that was actually probably the best that the whole team looked the entire night. I did like that was probably one of the stronger even power plays that I've seen from them in a little while. If they're able to channel that going forward, I think they would be in much better shape. You don't typically see that type of cohesiveness from their power play unit, and I really liked that.
And Ian, unfortunately, penalties would get in the way in the second period. Suomela would take a hooking call to make it, and then Chicago, of course, made it 2-1 on the Keith goal. I thought the PK could have been a little bit better, but they've been playing so well. They're still number 1 in the league.
Yeah, Chicago really did a good job of finding the passing lanes in this game, because I thought there was, especially in their first couple of goals, I thought, they really they made just some really, really nice passes, and Dell had to work to make a save, and unfortunately, and obviously in a couple of instances, there was no save to be had. But yeah, I mean, the way that they were the Sharks really need to do a better job of shutting down those passing lanes, because some of those passing lanes were just ridiculous that Chicago found, especially on that Keith goal, I think.
Yeah, and the Keith goal made it 2-1. I thought they had a little bit of momentum back, but then almost a little controversial call, because we've seen this through the years, the infamous Burnsy butt check. Burnsy takes a chance, which I probably haven't seen him take one in quite some time. He gets called for roughing. He doesn't like the call. Of course, Chicago comes back on the pursuing power play. Patrick King scores to make it 2-2. All of a sudden, all the momentum is coming on. Burnsy is just hot right now, Chelena, about the call and everything. And is it justified?
I actually think it was. We actually don't see Burns get that heated very often. He was talking to the officials even once the period was over. He still wasn't very happy about that, and I tend to agree with that. That's the type of defensive play that's just kind of one of his signature moves that he's done throughout the years. And I even went back and looked at it just to double check. It's like, did I miss something on there? But no, I thought that was a completely justified move. I thought that was an absolutely brutal call, and it unfortunately put the Sharks back on the goals.
Yeah, I thought maybe they, like, before I looked back on it, I thought maybe, like, the commentary team said, maybe the elbow might have gotten high, but I didn't see that either. So yeah, I didn't really like the call.
Yeah, I didn't. I was really hot about it, and of course the change of momentum completely swapped right over to the Sharks, or to the Blackhawks on this one. Gave them, it gave them a chance to get back into this, and I just was not having a great time with it. Of course, what happens next? Chicago completely takes advantage of, like you said, on their heels. Sod gets one in, sneaks in, makes it 3-1. And just is like, that was deflating right there. That was it. I mean, to me, that penalty changed the momentum of this game.
Mm-hmm.
When we were watching the broadcast earlier and Dell had that awesome save on Dylan Strome, I was like, ooh, that could be something that shuts the Blackhawks down. That could have been a huge momentum shift in favor of the Sharks. But then you go forward and you have this penalty, and it completely went the other way. And like Ian mentioned before, the Sharks were letting the Blackhawks really skate on in and take their chances. And they really, I don't want to completely say that they left Dell out to dry, but he wasn't getting a whole lot of help. And you had a bunch of players on the opposite side of the ice when they shouldn't be. And yeah, that penalty really did unravel them.
Yeah.
So they go on down 3-1 after 2 periods, and then of course, a minute 31 in, the other Nylander, I guess we can call him, Alex Nylander, at a minute 31, bangs one in from Strome. That, I think, was the nail in the coffin. 4-1 Hawks there. Timo Meier gets his 22nd at 6:39. Ian, I liked him just digging for the puck on this one.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy who needs to be a force around the net. If he's going to have success, that's how he's going to do it. So, yeah, he was, he dug in there and he got rewarded for it. I won't lie, though, at this point in the game, my social media feed was far more interesting than the game.
Absolutely. We're getting to that shortly, people. So hang on just a bit here as we finish this up, and of course, Kane gets his second of the game from Cuckoo, and wasn't for Cocoa Puffs, along with Nylander to make it 5-2, and then Kubalik gets his 30th on just a laser of a shot to make it 6-2 the final.
Yeah, that last goal, I think you saw the age of the Sharks really come through there, like the line that was on the ice. Gregor didn't really play that the way you'd want to see a guy play that in front of just the way he positioned himself in front of the net. And unfortunately, when you have young guys in the lineup, like, that was a real epitome of just showing, like, the inexperience of some of the guys on the ice on that 6th goal, I thought.
The difference between Gregor and Kubalik just in general was really on display right there. Kubalik has been one of kind of the bright spots for the Blackhawks season because their season hasn't been too great. And the thing is, earlier in this game, we talked about the jump the Sharks had early. I liked Gregor's jump. He looked good early. But yeah, on that last sequence, that was where it really showed that he still has some work to do because I think he could potentially be a really good weapon for the Sharks. But that youth kind of came out in not such a positive way.
Yeah.
You'll have those growing pains, unfortunately, on a young team that's maybe not quite ready to come up to the big leagues, but they're here now, and they're getting their share of a cup of coffee in the NHL, and why not? I mean, at this point, Aaron Dell, 39 saves on 45 shots. So I would say normally 39 save performance. We would be ecstatic for that, but unfortunately 6 goals found the back of the net. Chelena, what did you take from Dell tonight?
Kind of the same thing I've seen from his last couple of starts. When he was first when Bob Bugner first took over as bench boss and was first giving him more starts, seeing a lot of positive growth from Dell. But the last couple, you just can't be letting 3+ goals in a night. I know the team in front of him didn't play great. I know he wasn't getting a whole lot of help. I know that the Blackhawks were, brought out some really good stuff, and in the latter half of the game. But you just can't be letting in 3+ goals every night.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, there's a couple of goals where you're kind of like, really? And unfortunately, that's been a trend in a lot of his last starts. Jones is really, it's no fluke that Jones has kind of taken over the net again with his play. Unfortunately, and that's the conundrum the Sharks find themselves in, because now you're seeing, Aaron Dell kind of come back down to earth a little bit. You're seeing some positive stuff from Jones. But I mean, going this summer is going to be fascinating from a goaltending perspective for this team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be like we've mentioned many times before, everyone, at this rate, you cannot come back with the same tandem.
Oh, no.
I mean, I'd be absolutely shocked. I mean, Cornash got named goalie of the week.
I will write lots of words.
Unfortunately, Ian, I think we will have plenty of time for those words.
Probably.
Oh man. So final totals throughout the night, because it's interesting to see what came out. I mean, the Blackhawks put up 45 shots on goal in this game to the San Jose's 36. It was a shooting gallery out there. 81 shots on goal. Both teams had success on the power play. 1 for 3 for the Sharks. Chicago went 2 for 3 in this one. The stat-wise, Chelene, did anything pop out at you the most?
I don't know if I'd say anything the most. I think the fact that the Blackhawks went 2 for 3 on the power play, their special teams hasn't been very good this season, and the Sharks' penalty kill might still be best in the league, but I really think that they needed to shut Chicago's power play down tonight. Yeah, special teams was definitely a difference.
Yeah, and it did cost them a little bit in the long run. I mean, when's the last time we've seen 2 power play goals? So, it's or allow 2 power play goals. Heck, for that matter, when have they scored 2 power play goals? But, it is what it is, folks. I mean, Chicago's trying desperately to get back into the playoff race. The Sharks kind of turning up, finishing off the year here. So, let's get to the chat. I know there's some comments about the game before we get talking about the coronavirus here, but first off, Steve Cropper, saying, personally, I put this game on Doc. Dude is a total jinx. Now, come on, that's only when we play Pittsburgh. Trying to lighten up the mood here. I mean, it's been a crazy last 3.5 hours. Am I right? It's
been a crazy 24 hours, really. I mean, it's been just. The last 3 hours have been crazy, but it's really like how fluidly things have changed in the past 24. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm like, is there a precedent? Like maybe the Spanish flu?
Yeah. The one that was in
maybe, and I don't remember. I wasn't alive. I mean, it's 1918 or whatever.
I mean,
Because I was totally alive then, Ian.
Oh, I know, no, I know none of us were alive for that, but I mean, like, I can't think of anything like in my lifetime that I can relate this to.
No, this is really unprecedented. You know, but just kind of quickly going over the chat here, looking about it. You know, forget this season. Reverse to trade. AO saying, you know, Christine saying I think their hearts weren't in it. You know, thank you, Steve, for saying give us a thumbs up. Appreciate it. Mason, Burnsy's been playing so much that hitting like that would tire him more than he already is. You know, I can't see Burnsy facing supplemental discipline.
For what, being hot at the ref? Because that's the only thing that I could even think of. Like, and even there, like, that's fine. You're allowed to get angry at the ref when they give you a bad penalty.
Yeah. So
he also doesn't have a history of needing discipline or getting in refs' faces. So I don't think there's going to be anything there. And Burns has been playing really, really well recently. So that would just be such a bummer if he ended up getting disciplined for something that I thought was a good play.
It was nothing, yeah.
It was completely something we've seen not called, and unfortunately changed the momentum of this game, to be quite honest. So that's what we have for the Sharks and the Blackhawks. But earlier today, I mean, the team, the organization came out with a statement in regards to, an update on events at SAP Center in regards to what was going on. They've basically announced that the Sharks, or all events at SAP Center, are essentially going to be either canceled or played without fans. It's again, this is unprecedented in anywhere. We know we've seen it in Europe. We've seen it in Italy, where they're playing, Italy Serie A without any fans. So basically, what are you looking at? Well, here's what you're looking at for some of these events. For the Sharks, March 19th was against Montreal. The 21st, which was against Boston, that was the Uprising Jersey giveaway. For those of you keeping up with the freebie giveaways on the night here, and of course, Hockey is for Everyone night on the 29th against the Arizona Coyotes. That's what we were what you're going to see at the moment. As for unaffected or affected dates into the evening, along with the two Barracuda games that were on March 17th against the Eagles, and the Barracuda game on the 22nd against the Condors. So you have 5 games that will be played at the Shark Tank, but there will not be any fans in attendance for those games. And I'll come back to the panel here, and Chelena, I'll start with you. I mean, obviously this is unprecedented. The teams and the leagues have taken some precautionary issues, going with the trying to protect their players and management and staff. Your thoughts about this?
It's just so amazing, and we were kind of talking about this before we went on air, just how much everything has changed within the last, even 24 hours, let alone the last 4 hours. As of yesterday, there was possibly going to be limited media access, trying to keep people out of the dressing rooms so that if someone's sick. And when, typically at this time of year, this is typically when teams, when the flu or the cold goes around, and you see a lot of that, and there's some precautionary measures. But this is on such a whole different level. Just since the Sharks game was going on, the NBA suspended their season. And I have a good friend from college who covers the Utah Jazz, and she's still in quarantine right now, not knowing when she can leave. And this is something that unraveled while the Sharks were playing the Blackhawks. And I know the league. I keep checking my Twitter feed to see if the league has made any updated things. And to start off with, I thought it was so crazy, the idea of hockey being played in an empty arena. Being at the practice facility where it's smaller, you don't think of there being crowd noise, but SAP Center, you have somewhere big like that that's cavernous. I thought, well, that's just going to be so bizarre, but I understood it from a standpoint of keeping fans safe. But then this thing happened with the NBA, and you look at it from an NHL standpoint, like that could happen to the NHL as well. It's just such a bizarre. I know the word unprecedented has been used a lot. If I had my thesaurus open, I'd probably use another word. But it's as insane as it is, and as much of a bummer as it would be. I do think that keeping everybody healthy, whether it be players, whether it be fans, whether it be people that work with the teams, I think that's important. It is incredibly unfortunate for part-time workers who work around the team, or for media members who don't, aren't, making a salary covering the team, who are freelancing. Like, this is horrible. This would be absolutely horrible if they weren't able to work. But it is a health issue. It's just kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, and for me, I think where I kind of turned on this, because I think if you go and maybe the last show or the show before I was on, I probably sound like a jackass now. I think Italy, like how badly it's affected Italy and the mortality rate in Italy compared to the infections. And this is a country, like, this is a modern country. Like, this is a modern Western society. So, like, obviously I trust the numbers that would come out of Italy a little bit more than China or an Iran or a North Korea. Right. So, I mean, like, so I think that really kind of started changing my perspective on it, because before I was just like, well, if you're in a high risk group, which I personally am in, then you want to take measures to keep yourself safe. But I think at this point, with how it's spread and with the numbers that are coming out of Italy, you have to do something. You have to act. And Italy really changed my mind on this whole thing, really.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they've virtually shut down the entire country. I know. I was just trying to look up any other words. Extraordinary. I guess we'll go with from the thesaurus, but I mean, it's quite unprecedented. I know Columbus joined in the same situation with the Sharks on their announcement, but Chelena, like you said, as the Sharks game was going, Oklahoma and Utah were playing the NBA tonight, and the game was delayed and then postponed because then we found out a Jazz player contracted coronavirus. And
it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but before we came on the show, because I knew I was on the show tonight, and one of the things that I was going to talk about before all this broke down was, like, it's only going to take one player to get sick.
Yep.
For it to be an absolute disaster, because then as you're heading into the playoffs, not only do you have to quarantine that player, you have to quarantine anyone that's come in contact with them. So basically their team. And if that happened it's before the playoffs, but let's say that happened in round one of the playoffs, what do you do then? If you're the NHL, like, it's a really rough spot.
Yeah. And it's scary. And, we're getting some comments in here, looking at, Christine saying, hope your friend will be okay, Chelena, from Christine.
Oh, thank you, Christine.
It's crazy, James Abel saying, no way the NHL doesn't cancel the season. We will look like complete fools not to follow the NBA's lead. Face it, the season is over. I'm not sure if it's over, per se. I would.
Here's the problem with the NBA season. Depending on how long they postpone it for, the problem is if you postpone it and pick it up later. Let's say they wait a couple of months and then try to pick up the season. Now all those buildings are going to be booked for concerts and stuff, and it becomes a real logistical nightmare in order to reschedule things. So it's postponed right now, but if they get too far in the weeds here, they might not have a way to come back and put this back together again because of building schedules and such.
That's incredibly true. I know that I know just for San Francisco, since I live there, there are a lot of places that are, concert halls. Some of the big plays that are downtown. A lot of shows are giving fans a chance to refund their tickets because shows are canceled. But to Ian's point, that'll be very interesting to see if and it's probably going to happen if the NHL does decide to postpone the season. How far does it have to be postponed for before you scrap it and say, okay, there's no way to make all of this up?
Yeah, and that's the point, is that you're kind of in a tough spot where you still have about roughly 12 to 14 games left for each team. Do you just scrap it here? I mean, there are playoff races if you're going to continue this season on. If it were like the last 3 games of the NHL season, like the first NHL strike at the end of the Sharks' first season in 1992, you can kind of reschedule those within a week and then move on with the Stanley Cup playoffs. Here, it's a little trickier, and that's the same thing with the NBA. Is that you have those dozen or so games left. You have teams jockeying for position. I mean, if you're a team like Florida, and I know this is completely opposite of being careful with her health and everything, but if you're a team like Florida who says, okay, wait a minute, if we don't play, we don't even get a chance to try to come back in and make a run. And that's the tough part, It's a fine line, and I get why the NBA canceled it. So, but let me put up the statement that the league put out not too long ago. The National Hockey League is aware of the NBA's decision tonight to indefinitely suspend its season due to a player testing positive for the coronavirus. The NHL is continuing to consult with medical experts and is evaluating the options. We expect to have a further update tomorrow. So, and it looks like Felix is providing a statement from the NHLPA. We are in continuous contact with the NHL regarding the coronavirus and the recent announcement by the NBA. These decisions will continue tomorrow morning. We will consult with players before commenting further. And for that, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, and look, it obviously they're gonna, the Friedman put out a statement just before we went online, basically saying that there's gonna be, a big conference call tomorrow with the league, the PA, the executive committee. So I mean, they'll probably, I can't see them not following suit. Like I have a hard time imagining the NHL being like, nope, this is fine. None of our guys are sick, because the thing with the end, like the NBA just shut down, and there was a good tweet out there that basically just showed like how over the last 2-week period, like how many teams like were in contact with the Jazz, and then how many teams of those teams were in contact with. And when you consider that, and you consider the fact that the NHL and the NBA share a lot of the same buildings, yep. I don't know how you can just continue and say this is fine. Like, yeah, there's going to be economic repercussions, obviously, for everyone, for the world. But at some point you have to put the safety of if you're not going to put the safety of the fans first, you have to put the safety of your of your players, your officials, the people that you're responsible for.
And if it can get Tom Hanks, it can get anybody.
Yes.
I think that's important to know.
And Bay Area, he has ties to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
A hockey fan too, for that matter. Even though he roots for the Kings, should stay with the Sharks or Seals since he's got Bay Area roots. But that being said, have you guys heard anything? James Abel saying that the Penguins supposedly canceled their flight to Columbus for tomorrow's game. If that says anything,
I haven't seen that yet.
I haven't seen anything of that yet, but 30 days. I mean, and James making a good point here. How does this affect other things? Say you delay it 30 days. How does it change free agent dates, injuries to players who are going to be out for the playoffs? Like Jake Gensel. This delay would help. Yeah, big time. I mean, it's almost like you're playing in the national championship game for college football. You have like a 30-day window for that. Um,
That's an excellent question.
There's so much we don't like. There's so much we just don't know.
Such uncharted territory. It's just so bananas and so many things to be considered. And with how much has changed just over the last 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many hypotheticals. I mean, the only thing I can tell you for sure is that there's a couple things that are going to be really, really interesting going forward. And I think the salary cap numbers can be very interesting going forward. I think that if you look at, and I got in trouble on Twitter for this today, but I don't care. If you look at the players, if you, let's say you shut down the season and you can't get it back started again, the players are going to get killed in escrow this year. They will lose every last cent to escrow. And there was a lot of talk of next year with the salary cap, possibly going higher because the players are getting paid a lot of money in signing bonuses next season because that was the lockout proof season where guys really got up in their, if they get absolutely destroyed by escrow, are they going to turn around and do anything with the escalator? It's crazy. It's just how far this thing can, just the ripples that this is going to have on everything. And that's just hockey. Forget the rest of the, the important things.
Yeah. And I would expect that even though if they do lose or postpone or cancel some games, again, all speculation, gang.
Right. Yeah.
This is very fluid as we're on here, but the salary cap. I mean, I would think there's got to be some exception to that. Yes, they're probably going to lose some money if that was the case. But I would also think at the same time that affects every team. So
sure. Oh no, absolutely. And again, I'm not saying, and there is more important things right now than losing money.
Right.
Don't because I got in I didn't get in trouble, but it was all you care about is teams losing money. I'm no, I tweet about hockey and this is a hockey thing. And
no,
I've tweeted about hockey when a lot worse things have gone down.
Right. No, and I totally get that, Ian. That's totally understandable because, like James says, doesn't free agency start July 1st? Well, if the season ends, if they push out the season, say 30 days or whatever the case may be.
And they're playing until June 30th or
right.
whatever. Yeah.
I mean,
the only precedent thing we have would be the 05, the 05, the start of the 05-06 season because of the lockout. And what they did there was basically wasn't the draft held on August 1st or something or July 30th?
It was really late that year.
Yeah. So
exactly what it was. It was late that year.
The draft started, I think, July 30th. I think free agency started not too long after that. So you'd probably see something similar in that.
Truncated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was on July 30th that the NHL had their draft. Originally scheduled on June 25th for that 2005 draft, and they held it in a hotel.
Yes, in Ottawa.
And this year's it's supposed to be in Montreal. I'm sure they would probably, bring it down and condense it down into another ballroom again, in that sense. But yeah, you also have to worry. You have to worry about the draft. You have to worry about free agency. If you move things, those have to get moved as well. It's unprecedented. I mean, again, we mentioned the lockout. We also mentioned the 1919 Stanley Cup final was canceled because of the Spanish flu. So it's either one way or the other. Like James, you're hitting on the head. Either this season is getting postponed 30 to 60 days, or next season is getting shortened, one or the other. That is another option too. But
it is.
Yep.
But that's again going to affect hockey-related revenue, and CBA is looming too. I mean, this kind of puts.
They should shut down. They should just shut down the league so everyone can get healthy and do the CBA at the same time. Just do it over conference call and save us all some pain.
Or amend some rules that they have in the current one.
Yes, let's, if anything good, that would be perfect. Let everyone get healthy, do the CBA like over conference call so that no one has to interact with each other, and then yeah, come back twice as strong.
So many conference calls. All of the
Yes.
conference calls. Conference calls and Slack are going to be so hot for the next month.
Slack, Skype,
Crazy.
Microsoft Teams.
Oh yeah.
I mean, hey, Silicon Valley, that's what we're known for, right?
That's mostly what I do anyways. I do spend most of my time, working remotely anyways. So it does work. But but not having that contact with the people you're supposed to be interviewing on a regular basis is a little bizarre. Yeah, it's gonna, we don't know how it's gonna play out, but it's, yeah. If it gets postponed, there's a whole domino effect of things that could happen.
Absolutely.
Here's a question. Here's a question for you, Chelena. Sorry if I cut you off. I didn't mean to do that.
You were all good.
Of course, we've seen the infamous glitter iPhone case.
Yes.
I mean, just to go from being so close in the locker room with players to just kind of like being, I think I saw it with the Hurricanes. They had a podium and they had it roped off like a few feet away. Obviously I don't think it changes too much of the interaction, but what kind of interaction would there be in a normal NHL locker room?
Well, in the locker room, in the dressing room, you're able to walk up, especially on a non-game day when there aren't a bunch of cameras around. You can kind of walk up to whoever you want to interview. It's with the podium. That's what they have during the playoffs, especially once you get to the conference final. You have very limited, direct access to players. There's, it's a lot of times they're on the podium and you're out in the audience. You have the microphone. It's that whole thing. When you're in the same room talking to somebody, whether you're right up next to them or back in the audience, there isn't as big of a difference there. The difference is when you're talking to people on the phone. Phone interviews and interviews in person are very different. That's where things get a little bit different. For working remotely, if you're on a conference call with an editor or with a colleague, that's not all that different. But when you're trying to talk to the team, coaches, players, that's where things get a little bit different.
Very curious, especially me, just because of the post-game scrums, just very curious as to, I know the interaction face-to-face is big, and I remember that when I did the stadium series at Levi's, how just being up close up front and then going to, with a different setup and everything just kind of changes the mood a little bit. So, question for all of us from GF Turner: besides the inaugural season, is this the worst season in Sharks history, all things considered?
No, the second season was the worst one.
Yeah.
Second one was so much worse than the first. The first, we were just fucking happy to be there. For a second season, that was a tough one.
Yeah. Oh.
I think what makes this season so difficult is the fact that the expectations were so much higher. I think coming off of conference final berth last season, and going 6 games and then losing to just a really good team, the expectations for this year were just much higher. And there was maybe like a little bit of a suspected dip just because of last off season's changes to the roster. But I think that's what makes this season such a downer, is that there wasn't just a slight dip over a couple of seasons. They went from playing the Blues in the Western Conference Final last season to where they are right now.
Yeah. I didn't look at this team like the start of the season. I didn't look at it as a cup contender, but I thought for sure they'd be in the playoffs. I thought easy in the playoffs, easy.
Yeah,
and boy, was I wrong.
We all make mistakes and all make bad predictions. Trust me, I know. Picking Minnesota and Winnipeg, 5 years ago, and I'm still such a fan of Minnie and Winnie, of course. And honestly, 11-71-2, losing 71 games. And then the worst part, you don't get the number 1 overall pick that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little brutal. A
Yeah.
little bit.
Christine, I missed that Sparkle phone.
Oh,
We all do.
I'm on it right now. I am on it as we speak.
All I'm gonna say is, if you're looking for a great writer, a great representative to talk hockey with, I mean, all of us, yes, but more so than anything, Chelena is your girl. Go get her. That sounded really bad, but you get the idea.
We know what you're
people.
trying to say.
Yes.
I appreciate that, Eric. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
James Abel, another question. How are all those conditional trades that were made with picks based on a team making the playoffs or winning the cup work out? Are all of those trades invalidated?
I'd have to go back and look at the 205 draft again.
I'm curious, because I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vincent Domfus signed with the Avalanche. And
the answer's in the 2005 draft. I don't remember. I know it was a weighted lottery, but I don't know if players. I got to figure out when, because I know there's obviously trades that happen. I just wonder if those trades happened that day on the floor or not, and that's where your answer is.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure.
That requires further research.
Yeah.
That's a very good question, though. That's an excellent.
Fantastic question.
Yeah, I think we had something similar to that on Twitter earlier, Ian. But yeah, it's one of those
I looked. I have to look into it again because I thought that maybe that there's some stuff that carried over, but I need to look because I have a better resource for trade tracking, and I need to figure out how many of those trades were made on the draft floor on 05. And at a quick glance, it looked like if you had traded your pick, it's like that draft just basically didn't happen. So that season didn't happen. So I guess the draft didn't happen. I'd have to go back and look. It's hard because I feel like before they went into that lockout, I'm pretty sure they held a draft before the lockout. So all those picks, and that's why it gets tricky, right? Because you would have, if you would have traded your pick, well, you would have drafted, and then because I feel like we drafted and then we had a World Cup and then lockout.
Yep.
And then the lockout started in right before the season was supposed to start. So the World Cup was late August, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that year?
I believe it was September, right before training camp was supposed to begin, and then a few days later the league locked out.
Yeah, so I'd have to. The answer is going to be. I don't know if that's going to be the exact answer, but looking at the 05 draft and trying to figure out how many of those drafts those trades happened on the floor, and if they all happened on the floor, then there would be a precedent that, maybe they just didn't. If you had traded a pick and maybe the 06 draft too, see if those picks got maybe carried forward into the season after, if you had a pick that you traded for is in 04 you traded an 05 pick, maybe that became an 06 pick. I'm not sure. And I don't know if I think the lockout's a good place to look to try and find precedent in these things because it's the closest thing we have, let's be honest. Depending on what happens with this season, if it goes completely down the tube. Yeah. That's what your answer is, though, in my opinion, because I think they would do something similar.
Yeah, the 04 draft was the Ovechkin-Malkin draft in Carolina.
Correct.
So they did have a draft in that one to correct you on, or to not correct, but fix that up there.
Yeah. So it's hard to say.
Yeah. For example, the Penguins traded a 2020 first for Zucker, but it becomes a 2021 first if they miss the playoffs. What happens if the season ends now? My guess, and this is
weighted lottery based on the standings as they are now. If they don't play, let's say they cancel the season, they don't play another game because pandemics don't end in a reasonable time frame. Usually, I don't think if this thing is going the way it's going, I don't think it's going to be well, this is going to be fine in a month. This will be fine. Population of millions of people in North America, you got hundreds of millions in the States, you have almost 40 million in Canada. This isn't going to be fine in a month. So I would, and again, guess weighted lottery based on the standings as they stand now. using the '05 lottery as the precedent.
Yeah, in which I think they use like the average of the 3 previous seasons to get all the percentage of the picks right in that sense. Yeah, JF saying, wouldn't want to be Gary Bettman right now and figure all of this out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tough one for sure. Chelena,
There's no guidebook. There's no guidebook for him to look at to decide what the best decision is, and a lot of time, and a lot of fans are just gonna not like what decision he makes, no matter what decision it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, it's really for the league, it's a lose-lose. They're gonna, regardless of what happens, they're gonna have people that are like, oh my God, this is so overblown, blah 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 blah,
right.
or or they don't do anything, and then it's like, oh my God, the NBA canceled the season.
Sick.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, they can't win.
No, it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't, in that sense. Mason, a suspended season is not a canceled season. No.
At some point, though, you would have to imagine that, like, again, and this is just me speculating. I have no crystal ball, but I don't see this thing getting better in a month or a month and a half. Like, there's only one direction this thing can go.
Okay, so to that question, no, suspended does not automatically equal canceled. But like as Ian and I were saying a little bit earlier, if that suspended time goes longer, then you get to that point where it's like, okay, is it better to just cancel the season? Do we want, how far out do you go, before you say, okay, we need to just cut this short?
Yeah.
I would almost look at it like if it's a player's strike. For those who are in baseball, when they went on strike, you kind of like hope for the things to happen, and there's probably going to be a certain drop dead date where you can't get it, and that's the thing, and again,
here's the problem, right? Again, it's not just an issue of, well, just reschedule the games. It's a building availability issue, especially when it's not like the NBA, and again, the NBA and the NHL share a lot of the same buildings. If you have both of them suspended for a certain amount of time, you get into the summer usually concerts, I mean, obviously look at concerts are obviously going to take a hit here too, but you're going to get to a point where it's going to be nearly impossible to reschedule these games to have a satisfying conclusion to the season. And if you're getting into July, do you really want to do a month of playoffs and then have a month off and then come back and September for training camp, October start the season?
And then there are already talks about, should the season be shortened? Is it too long? Are players, is the schedule taking toll on players? And then you get into that discussion.
Yeah,
which was already a thing. We could go on forever, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we could hypothesize for a long time.
It's only 8:30. I mean, Well, I take that back. For Ian's sense, it's 11:30 out
That's true.
in his part of the Great White North there. So it remains to be seen to what's going to happen. So stay tuned. If you're on Twitter, we will do our best to make sure that everything gets forwarded to you on the Teal Town USA account. Of course, follow Chelena Goldman on the Twitter as well to make it on that sense. This is probably one of the most unique Teal Town After Darks we've ever had. Oh boy, you kind of just take a deep breath and you hope for the best and
hope for the best, plan for the worst. I mean, that's really all you can do in situations like this.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are games being played right now, and it just seems weird.
I'm checking my feed, and there's still like the Ducks are playing right now. It's insane. Craziness.
I mean, Winnipeg and Edmonton tied at 2 in the second period. St. Louis. This is the makeup game for what happened when Jay Bouwmeester collapsed on the bench.
Right.
The Blues lead 2-1. And I love what the Ducks are doing. They're donating, some of their merchandise, they're like the discount of the sales, to I think it was like the University of California Irvine Health, who took care of him. Updated. I'm sorry. Now it all updated. Thank you NHL.com for making me look like an idiot. Winnipeg wins 4-2. St. Louis leads the Ducks 3-2 late in the second. Colorado's up 2-1 on the Avalanche. Ottawa and the Kings are tied at 1. Of course, we told you about the Sharks and the Blackhawks on that one. So, next Saturday's UFC fight is going to be canceled in London. My girlfriend's son is out in London right now. He's trying to figure out because he's supposed to come home on St. Patrick's Day. He's trying to figure out if he needs to get on the plane now before the UK is not allowed to fly to the US or whatnot. So
I would get home if I was anywhere. I would get home.
Yeah.
At this point.
I have friends that are at a wedding in India, and they left last week. And I remember seeing that and being like,
"Oh my god,
that's great! It's awesome!"
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
goodness.
True story.
Oh my goodness. Christine saying if the season is canceled, I hope you have another show. We will be on some point.
We gotta speculate endlessly of what comes next. What else are we gonna do?
Yeah,
I mean, we have other things to figure out.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. We
There's gonna be salary cap speculation. It's gonna be fantastic.
All that. God. So excited.
Yeah, it's it's all gonna be all over the place. So we'll be connected to you in whenever form possible. For that Olympics decision should be made in the May. Yeah, you want to go to Tokyo in July? I don't know. Burjeff, 18 lights. Let's make this go viral. Hey.
Well, let's not make this go viral. That's a terrible expression right now.
Yeah, that's true.
And here come the pretzels.
I don't blame you. Yeah, and Chris, he travels all over the place. Chris, good evening to you, sir. I've been officially grounded, no flying until April, and he's usually flies all over the world. So, I totally get that. With that, let's. I guess we'll wrap things up. Chelena, better connection, yay! And we appreciate everything. Also, you got some kudos for the Led Zeppelin poster in the background.
Which one? Which one can you guys see? I've got like 3 of them. And I have the Janis Joplin over my shoulder as well.
Nice.
All sorts of stuff.
So with that, your final thoughts and where the people can find you.
You can find me on the tweet machine. Drop by and say hi. I'm always down to talk and answer your questions. I like hockey, but we can also talk about other things. As long as you don't like the storm.
Absolutely. So we appreciate it. She's at Chelena Goldman. Ian, your final thoughts and where the people can find you.
I mean, stay safe, wash your hands, do all the things that you would normally do. Don't be, don't be crazy. Just be thoughtful. Just, treat other people good and don't panic, but don't not be, don't take this too, don't go crazy, but don't under prepare for this either. Do smart things, be smart, stay healthy. That's what I'm going to do.
It sounds like a great idea, my friend.
It sounds like a Sesame Street PSA, you guys.
Yes.
Like a Sesame Street. Stay healthy.
Stay healthy. Do smart things. Don't go crazy. Just do smart things. Do things that you would normally do, and
I love it.
And we'll get through this. We always do.
I love it.
Hashtag Teal together. He's at Ian Blogs Hockey. I'm at PuckGuy14 on the Twitter and the Instagram.
And I will continue to tweet about hockey, and because I've tweeted about hockey during all kinds of silly things. Well, my dog's angry.
The angry Canadian dog has
come
into the studio in Ontario, Canada. I'm at PuckGuy14 on the Twitter and the Instagram. we are, and I can't believe I'm saying this, we are scheduled to be with you Friday as the San Jose Sharks continue this road trip as they get ready to head out on an airplane and take on the St. Louis Blues. That's a 5 p.m. start. They also go to Dallas the next night at 6 p.m. In Dallas. So there's a back-to-back situation. If we hear anything, of course, we will bring it to you on tealtownusa.com. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love hockey as much as you do. And don't worry, we'll get through these rough stretches together and hopefully celebrate one day. Who knows when that one day will be, but, let's hope it happens soon. So, Joshua Zalk, missed your coverage, Chelena.
Thank you, Josh.
Christine's like, what the hell, puck guy? We have anything else to do.
Okay. Social media in moderation.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I have to come up with some Sharks Jeopardy and Teal Town match game.
That is my other advice for the evening: is social media in moderation right now. God.
Yeah. So with that, we'll leave with you. We will see you hopefully on Friday against the St. Louis Blues, and we'll enjoy you then. The conversation continues now on our Discord. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on the social media. And until then, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Have a great night, everyone. We will see you very soon. We'll just leave it at that. Good night, everyone.